So welcome back, fellow gardeners. As I mentioned earlier with our philodendrons, we're going to do a second part of it because this is a bipin atom philodendron, which I bought a while ago, but I wasn't sure whether it was a philodendron. I didn't know what to do. And a while back, it started giving me problems and I wasn't sure what it was. And so then I thought that the roots had been root bound and I did repot it. However, since then, what I've understood about this plant where I went wrong is I did overwater it. And with the result, some of the leaves went mushy. But I believe that I need to repot it because if I look at it, I've got some offsets that need to get into a new pot. So I've actually prepared everything here. So what we're going to do today is we're going to pot it. So my name is Alice and I'm the Red Soil Gardener. Join me on this operation. So as I recap about philodendrons, we know that philodendrons are forest plants. And this beautiful plant, as you see its lovely crinkly leaves, is one of those sort of philodendrons that grow in these tropical forests. So basically it doesn't like full sun because the leaves are very delicate. And as we understood, philodendrons, what happens with them is that if you do put it on direct sunlight, is you will scorch the leaves, and once it's scorched, it's difficult to actually repair it. So do keep this particular plant in sort of indirect sunlight inside the house, and that's why it makes it one of the best indoor plants to have. Now, we talked about the soil again, is that because it is a rainforest plant, try to replicate the type of soil, which is basically like all these, which is just organic. And if you look at this one, it's full of leaves in there, it's got little pods and everything, because all I wanted to do is replicate the soil so it's well draining and it's porous. And then once you need to water it, which is not that often, before you water, you do your finger test. And if about 2 inches, 3 inches is dry, then you go ahead and water. So we've talked about light, we've talked about soil. Now we talk about watering, which we have said is basically it doesn't like to have too much water. Dry it in between feeds and do your finger test. Now the problem also is that it doesn't like water around the roots. And if you do give it too much water, you will get root rot. And so basically, for as long as the condition, which is the soil, the light, and the watering is according to the requirement of the plant, your plant will flourish. With this philodendron, is what I noticed is that you do get these offshoots, which is like on the side. We'll have to open it up and have a look. I think that the best thing I do is tip the plant over, remove the soil. Let's check if it's root bound. And also we look at the babies, the offsets, and see if we can actually propagate them, because maybe that's another way of actually rejuvenating this plant. So I'm going to tip it. Whoa. So I've tipped this plant, and what I've seen is that it is actually root bound. Do you see all these roots just holding onto it? And maybe this is one of the reasons that the plant is always not looking well. So what I'm going to have to do here is look at the offsets. Now these are the offsets. If I lift it here, that is one offset, and you can see the leaves are actually coming out. I'm getting leaves, and then if I turn it slowly this side, another offset is here, and these are the babies of this plant, and another one here. And as I go right through, you could see so many babies actually coming out, and it's all feeding on these roots that are actually root bound. So what I'm going to do is actually open this a bit more, try to get this root bound here, just to open it, because when we do repot it, is we want the roots to be able to spread and not curl in a circle as it's done. So I'm just going to use my hands and massage it so that the soil can open up, and some of those roots, look at that, it's totally root bound. And then we can start afresh. Just going to open it up a bit. In order for me to get these babies, I may have to just pull it, but another way of doing it is actually getting the knife, because the thing is that if you have to propagate this offset, is you need to have some rooting in it for it to continue. So what I'm going to do is actually go in there, and I'm going to actually, though it does look a bit rough, but I think the plant needed it. What I'm going to do is actually go in there and take my knife and separate the offset. So I'm going to go in here. Okay, got it. Yep, I got it. Okay. So one offset, and as you see, it was actually so root bound, and so that's one baby. Oh, here's a nice old one. This one here, and it's got a lot of babies that come from the actual plant. So these also, maybe this is where the leaves come from. So I need to actually look at it here. That's where the leaves come. So I have to be careful that I don't damage the leaves. It is quite tough. See if we can pull it off. And of course, again, try to cut it and keep some of that rooting, because that will assist. Here we go. Okay. Here we go. There we go. Again, I've managed to separate my plant, and what I'll do is just open that rooting again, because that's a lot of root bound. Here we go. The roots need to move, and this hasn't been too good. Here we go. And separation also does rejuvenate the plant, and hopefully my second leg, round 2, I'll be more successful in looking after it. But I think the problem was that it was totally root bound. So that's number 2. I look at this one and I'm thinking maybe I'll just leave it the way it is, because the babies are there, and maybe we wait until the babies do get bigger, and then once it does fill in the pot, I can actually then we can divide it. Here we go. So now with this one, I'm just going to take my scissors and just give it a snip here. And what I will do with this one is put it back in its pot. Look at all that lovely mixture. rainforest type. It's rainforest type soil. It's very well draining. So I'm going to put it back here like that. And I will put some of this soil back just to make sure it holds. I'm going to fill it really up to its crown and making sure that some of these babies are actually submerged, so that if they do get rooting, the roots are actually in the soil. I'm just going to really fill that pot up. And again, organic stuff. This is like a compost is in there, and all the goodies. And I will fill it to the top, because once you do water, the soil will settle and then it'll go down a bit. So I just want to make sure that everyone is comfortable here. And then what I'll do is I'm going to take 2 days before I water it, because we have made a cutting and I want it to callus, to dry out at that wound. And then once we're ready to put the water, at least the callus would have actually sorted itself out. So that's my first plant here. Now, my next one, I've got this one here, the soil. So I'm going to put this one in here, and I think it'll do quite well in there. And again, as I mentioned, is if I look around here, all these little babies, baby leaves are sprouting out, and these will eventually become mature offsets similar to this, and will eventually be like this. And as it matures, we can actually propagate those sides. And then I'm going to, again, similar, we just cut some of these rooting, and they will grow. We're just rejuvenating the plant. They will grow. And so basically, again, similar, I'm just going to remove the middle bit, just throw it in here. The other thing, what I did yesterday evening, before I planned to do this propagation, I did water the plant so that it gets enough water, because what I'm going to do is basically for 2 days, 3 days, while it calluses, I'm not going to give it any water, but I did water it so that it has the moisture, and it will survive as I don't water it for a few days. So I'm just going to put it here in the middle, like that. And then I'm going to cover it like that. And again, take some of the soil. I think it's better to use my hands. And I'm going to put it right up to the top, because I know as I water, the water will take the soil down a bit. Just like that. And again, it's a good potting soil, which we've actually talked about with Michael. If you look at my video on the perfect soil with Michael featuring. So that's my number 2. Now the last one here, this is a smaller one. And again, we've seen little shoots coming out. That means all the leaves will come out. This one is in slightly better position. The roots are there. And again, similar. I'm just going to take some of those rooting out, like that. And going to remove some of the soil. Just go like that. And then we're going to put it right here in the middle. Just make room for it. Just put it in the middle there. And then what I will do with these plants is once they do start growing, is I'll move it into the next size pot and then continue doing it until it completely matures, like the one we actually, the mother plant. And once it's ready, then I just put it in a bigger pot. Here we go. Bit messy here. Good. There we go. So 1, 2, and mother plant. Here we go. So fellow gardeners, thank you for joining me on this. So now we know about the Bipin atom, philodendron, and we've seen their babies, we've seen where their offsets are. And it is easy to separate the offsets, and you have to ensure that when you do a separation, you do keep some of that rooting. We will follow up on these plants, and the only thing what I will do now is actually put them in a bright indirect sun once I've watered them, and let them sort of start budding, and then gradually move them into bigger pots as they mature, and then display it somewhere in my house, most probably on a coffee table where it doesn't get direct sun. So thank you so much. Don't forget to subscribe and press that notification button. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, and do send me your comments as always. I love them. And we download our videos every Thursday, so you will catch up with us this Thursday coming. And good luck. If you do find this plant, do go and buy it, because it's such a beautiful, unusual plant, and it'll always be a conversation piece, because it's actually the first time I've actually seen this plant. So thank you so much, and have a lovely day.